Lindsay from Lindsay Elliott Coaching, and I want to share something today with you that I have found so helpful in my own journey and healing with anxiety. So this was something that when I learnt it, it just really helped me to understand why possibly my brain was urged towards being anxious and worried more than maybe other people that I noticed around me. And just really to sort of almost like depersonalize it and take it out of it having so much meaning about me and me as a person. What I'm going to share really helped me just to see it as, oh, this is just a function of my brain, the computer in my head. This is a function that's designed to keep me alive. And it doesn't mean that I therefore need to pay attention to it. So I'm hoping that it will also help you too. So I'm going to talk about this from the point of view of being a coach. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a brain scientist. I've certainly explored and researched some of this and learnt about it from other people. But I just want to say I'm a coach and I'm going to talk about it in coach speak. Because I think that's not even in coach speak, but in human to human speak. So it's not going to be the most kind of highfalutin explanation of how our brains work. So I just want to put that out there. But what I'm hoping it will be is simple and effective for you to hear, as it was for me. So what we want to know about the brain is that our brain, the organ, hasn't actually evolved much from like 10,000, 20,000 years ago, when we were cave people living out on the savannah. So our brains still pretty much are attuned to that time. Now, obviously, our world, the environment in which we live, has evolved hugely, but our brains haven't. So that's the first thing to know. So what I want you to imagine as I explain this is that you are a cave person sitting out on the savannah around the campfire, just sitting about, say it's the morning and you're just, you've eaten your breakfast and you're just sitting around the campfire. Now, how I actually like to visualize this is actually little brains just sitting around the campfire rather than in people's heads. But that's just a funny little thing that my mind likes to do. So the purpose and the function of all of these little brains sitting around the campfire is 100% is to keep the body, the physical being, alive. So that's another really important thing to know. The function of your brain is to keep your body alive. It does not care if you are happy, if you are content, if you are sad, if you are anxious, worried, or stressed. Your brain does not care about that. It cares about keeping your physical body alive. That is its utter 100% function. So we've got all of these brains sitting out on the savannah. Now, 20,000 years ago, before we were living in the times that we are living now, where we have shelter, we have readily available food, we have medical care almost around the corner, we have shelter from weather. Physically, our physical bodies in modern times are not under a lot of threat. It's very rare, other than being attacked or in a car accident or something like that, it's very rare that our physical body is actually under threat these days. But 20,000 years ago, there would have been loads of threats to the physical body. So you've got all of these brains sitting on the savannah around the campfire. And the purpose of this brain is to scan for danger. So it's going to scan for, is that some weather over there, like a tornado or a really strong storm that's potentially going to, impact the physical body? Is that what's coming in over the horizon? And, oh, what was that rustle in the bushes over there? Was that a wild animal coming to eat us? Oh, and is John over there, is he looking a little bit unwell? Oh, is that the threat of an infectious disease coming into the tribe? And also like, oh, what's that on the horizon? Is that a rival tribe coming over to come and threaten us and, attack us? So all the time, the brain is scanning. And in terms of evolution, if a brain was scanning, the brain that picked up the danger and saw the danger would have meant that would have meant survival. So those genes, so the brains that were good at predicting the danger, good at scanning for danger, good at picking up the danger, would have been those human beings that would have gone on to procreate, live longer, and then their genes would have been passed on and on. So from a physical body keeping the physical body alive, this scanning and prediction that the brain is designed to do is actually incredibly important. And so we are the result of all of those hundreds of thousands of people who would have had good brains that were able to predict, that were able to spot threats and were able to react. So they kept alive. And we are the product of that. Because obviously we're here now and we've got all of those genes somewhere in the, in our past. So that's the major thing to know. The brain is a prediction survival machine. Now today, we obviously don't have, as I already said at the beginning, all of those threats to our physical body. But our brains are still designed to work in that way. And so sometimes I think when we have had the experience of anxiety, maybe in our childhood or maybe as teenagers, and it starts to look important to us that we pay attention to that for whatever reason, our brain then, so in my case, I think my brain became more attuned to picking up anything that looked worrying or anxiety provoking. Now, for someone else, their brain may not have had so much anxious experience, and so it doesn't get into a habitual pattern with it. But I think my brain probably did, and maybe yours did too, as you're watching this video. But that doesn't mean that it's something that we need to pay attention to. So if you look in your experience at what your brain worries about, at what it feels anxious about, I think you will notice that I would say for me, close to 99% of what it's worrying about is not a threat that's happening now. So it isn't a threat to my actual survival. And it certainly isn't, even if it looks like it's a threat to survival in the future, like losing all your money and being homeless, that's not actually a threat that's happening now, in the here and now. But our brain is attuned to scanning for that, picking it up, and then trying to find a solution to it by worrying about it. So that's the other really big part of this is that the brain then, so it picks up and it scans for a threat that isn't really actually here most of the time. And then it tries to also find the solution to that, to help keep us alive. But then what happens is, for us, we're just in all of this misery of feeling really anxious, feeling really, really worried, in a brain that's just spinning on its own tracks and not really getting anywhere with it. And the other thing that also happens, I think, in modern day life is that things that aren't actually a threat to physical survival, but our brain kind of thinks they are, is also things that we worry about. So all of the things where we worry about what other people think of us. What if I fail at something? What if this relationship goes wrong? What if I'm ostracized? All of that kind of like low self-esteem, I'm not good enough. What will people think of me? Really caring what other people think of you and feeling anxious and worried about that. Not saying what you mean. All of that is also wrapped up in the threat. So the threat to the brain is you will be chucked out of the tribe. But being chucked out of the tribe now is not the same as being chucked out of a tribe 20,000 years ago. If you were chucked out of a tribe 20,000 years ago, you were dead. If you are ostracized today from maybe one set of friends or even from your family, that may be a difficult experience, but it doesn't mean that you're going to die. But our brain sees it as the same thing. So why this is helpful, why I found it helpful, was number one, was to know my brain is going to do this. It's going to try to scan for threats. It's going to try to predict when threats are going to come by lots of what if thinking. What if this happens? What if that happens? What will we do then? And it's also going to try to find solutions. So it's just knowing that this is a function of my brain. It's doing its job perfectly well. It's trying to keep this body alive. There's nothing wrong with that. 100% nothing wrong with that. It's just a function of your mind. And it's wonderful and it's working. So that's great. There's nothing wrong with us. That's the first piece of information. The second piece of information that I found so helpful was just because this is happening doesn't mean that I have to pay attention to it. Doesn't mean that I have to listen to what my brain is telling me. Doesn't mean that I have to get all involved with it. I can, if it occurs to me, just gently turn my attention away from that, knowing that there is no real threat. there is nothing to be gained by going and spinning the wheels and thinking about it some more and going down the anxious and worried path. It's okay that it's happening, but we don't have to buy into it. So I hope this has been helpful. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. Please also sign up to my mailing list where you will get these videos straight into your inbox every week. And if you are really struggling with anxiety or worry, please do check out my coaching programs, because I can certainly help you to live with a completely different experience of anxiety and worry. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.